Welcome to the Richard Lloyd USA YouTube channel. I'm Richard Lloyd. Today I'm going to be making a video on a Linksys Smart Wi-Fi router, basically how to make it into either a wired bridge mode, a wireless bridge mode, or a repeater mode, which are three modes that the actual router supports in making it into a sort of app. But the three modes have three different variations on them on how they connect. First one is wired with a Ethernet cable between the primary router and it to create a wired access point. That's the wired bridge mode. Then there's a wireless bridge mode, which does the same thing, but instead of using a cable between the two of them, it's using the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi band. And the third mode mixes the app mode with 2.4 gigahertz access and 5 gigahertz access to the actual router, and sharing that with the connection to the primary router. So I'll show you all that in a minute. I know that probably sounds a little confusing, but I've got diagrams and you'll figure it out. I got the EA8300 Linksys Smart Wi-Fi Linksys router. That's what we're going to be using, but this applies to all the smart Wi-Fi routers because they're configured the same way as far as bridge modes and repeater modes go. So first thing you're going to need is a patch cable to connect you from your laptop to or your PC to your router. You have to have one of these hardwired to it, otherwise it's just near impossible. The other thing you're going to need is a patch cable or an Ethernet cable between the main router and your secondary router, which will be the Linksys here that I'm using, to use the wired bridge mode if you're going to do that. Otherwise, you don't need this second wire. You can just use a wireless mode and bypass this. But so the wired mode to this bridge or to this router in bridge mode is the fastest mode. So if you can get a LAN cable between the two of them, you'll get the best speed results. Otherwise, it'll be a little slower, but it'll still be good. So we'll go from there. So the first mode of business here is to reset the router to its default settings, and the way you do that is to hold down the reset button on the back for 20 seconds and just continuously hold it down, and eventually all the lights flash across there, and it's at that point you have to wait a couple minutes and it will be reset to a factory default. Now I'll show you a picture of that here so you can see what that looks like on the rear of that router. There we go. You see the reset button next to the USB on this one anyway, and it's quite evident. Again, use something wooden like a toothpick or in this case a paintbrush, and hold it down for 20 seconds. It will reset, it will come back up, and it will go. Now let's take a look at the modes that we're going to be doing here while it's resetting. We're going to be doing a dedicated, oops, no, that's not the one. We want this one. First one I'm going to show you is the hardwired bridge, which is the fastest connection. I recommend strongly that you use a Cat6 or a Category 6 Ethernet cable between the primary router and the secondary router. And again, this is a 1 gigabit router, so it's best that it's connected to another 1 gigabit router for optimal speed. But if you don't have that on your primary, you probably have a slower router, I would say it's not going to be optimal. But again, you can do it. But I would suggest at that point, if you have a 100 megabit primary router, upgrade that router to a 1 gigabit router, or swap these two and use the secondary router as the bridge instead. And I have videos on how to do that with any router up here. I'll do a card and you can do it that way, but I'm assuming that you have a fast primary router and an Ethernet cable connected that is Category 6. And once it's connected, you'll be able to connect to that router either through Wi-Fi or the 4 LAN ports on the rear of the router. You can use those with Ethernet cables to connect to whatever you wish, printers, laptops, computers, whatever. You can hardwire them in and connect to the primary router as well. All of this will be on the same network every time, always going to be on the same network as the primary. So if you have a printer hooked up to your primary router, the clients on the secondary router will be able to see that as well. Anything that's shared on the primary will be able to be seen on the secondary router as well. So it just extends your router doing this. Any one of these three configurations will do that. Okay, so that's the first one we're doing. Second one we're going to do is the dedicated, this is called the Wi-Fi bridge, which is basically the same thing as the last configuration, but instead of using an Ethernet cable between the two routers, we're going to be using a dedicated 5 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz connection. And they and I strongly recommend that you only use the 5 gigahertz connection to do this, because it's the fastest. Otherwise, it's going to be really slow. Okay, and you will be able to connect at that point to the secondary router, and it'll be part of the network, same as our hardwired connection, the first one, all the same possibilities, including connecting to the back of this router with LAN cables or Wi-Fi, but only at 2.4 gigahertz, because the 5 gigahertz is dedicated connection to the primary. And that's the big deal here, is that it will be a consistent speed between the two routers no matter what, but unfortunately you're only going to be able to connect to the secondary router at 2.4 gigahertz. The third iteration we're going to do is repeater mode. Now in repeater mode, you think it's exactly the same as the last one, but it isn't, because you can connect either to 2.4 or 5 gigahertz band from the primary router to the secondary router, and it will connect no problem. But it will continue to share that band with everything else that wants to connect to the secondary router on that band. So you can connect to the primary router on 5 gigahertz and have clients connect to 5 gigahertz on the secondary router at the same time. It's not dedicated, but there is a downside to that. The more people you have on 5 gigahertz on the secondary router, the slower it's going to connect to the primary router, because it's going to be busy handling all that Wi-Fi traffic, including the traffic going to the primary router. So, I mean, for me, out of the three, the first one, the hardwire connection, was the best performer, and it gave me the 2.4 gigs and 5 gigahertz on the second router, on the secondary router. That was the fastest. The bridge mode was slightly slower than the bridge mode was much slower. Bridge Wi-Fi, the bridge Wi-Fi mode was much slower than the repeater mode, because it was a dedicated 5 gigahertz and I could only connect to that router at 2.4 gigahertz. But it was faster, well, a lot faster when you hardwired into it. But again, you know, I found that the repeater mode of the two wireless modes was fastest. But again, I don't have a lot of 5 gigahertz clients. So if you do, again, you'll have to do some experimentation, see which one works out best for you. But there's 3 modes. Choose one of the 3 and do some testing and see which one works best for you. All of them do the same thing. They take 2 routers, connect them together on the same network, and share out everything, including the internet, and anything that's shared on either side can be seen either way. It becomes basically a transparent connection between the 2 routers. So let's get going on the hardwired bridge connection, which is right here. And the way we're going to configure that one is to first connect to the router with an Ethernet cable from the laptop or PC to the LAN ports 1, 2, 3, or 4. We're going to connect it that way, and then after we're done that, we're going to go to we're going to do this. We're going to bridge it by connecting an Ethernet cable to the internet port on the secondary router to the LAN ports on the primary router. It's very, very important you get this right. Of course, the primary router will have the internet port already connected to a modem, so that won't be hard to mess up. So we're going from LAN on the main router to internet on the secondary router. That'll be the way this is configured. So the rest of them will be just wireless, so this won't matter. So let's start doing that. The router's already rebooted, so we're going to connect the Ethernet cable from our PC to one of the blue LAN ports on the back, not the internet port. There we go. Done. It lights up, so we know we're good. Now, if you don't have an Ethernet port on the back of your computer or on your laptop, you can buy these little devices, which are USB to Ethernet adapters, and they're USB 3, so they're gigabit adapters. So they allow you to plug these devices into one of the USB ports on your LAN card, or on your PC or your laptop, and that gives you an Ethernet network card almost instantly. You don't have to open up the PC, you don't have to open up the laptop or do anything like that. Just plug it in, hook up your Ethernet cable, and you're on the network. Okay, so if you need one of those, put links for that in the video description below. Those are affiliate links which help me out and you know, help me stay on YouTube. I would appreciate if you use those. They don't cost you any extra. It's the same price as going straight to Amazon or eBay, but I get a little affiliate you know, compensation for that. So please do that. Help me out. Like I said, it doesn't cost you any extra. And the other bonus there is that you get the same hardware that I use, which I know is good. I wouldn't recommend something that is, you know, not good, and tested. And on top of that, these also plug into my Raspberry Pi, which is pretty cool, which gives me two or three network cards on the same Raspberry Pi, which is pretty cool. Now, we'll continue on here. We're connected. We should be connected on the back of that router at this point. We've got these things out of the way. Now, on a Linksys router, when you reset it, the default IP address is going to be 192.168.1.1. And I'm going to go to the browser picture here. But first thing, before you do anything, disconnect from Wi-Fi. So go down here to your network icon, click the Wi-Fi button so that's not any longer blue and you're disconnected from Wi-Fi. So you're only connected on a hard wired connection, as you can see here, with no internet because we're not connected to anything yet. So if you right click that, go to open and network internet settings, and here go to change adapter options. And you'll see that there's, well, I have 4 internet, Ethernet or internet connections, LAN connections, network connections, but only one of them is connected, and that's the one that's active. So we're going to go right click on that, choose status, then go to details, and you can see that I have a default gateway of 192.168.1.1, but that's going to be the IP address every time you reset this router, which is a good reason to do so. So let's go to that address, 2.168.1.1, and you get this default page here. In order to continue on, you have to check this check mark here. I have read and accepted license term agreements. Go to manual configuration, and you're going to see this wait thing a lot, okay, this wait circle a lot. So I'm going to edit these out as much as possible, because some of these are 3 to 4 minutes every time you go through them. So be patient with this. It may seem that it's taking forever, so just go grab a coffee and come back, and when it gets done thinking about what it's doing, it will get to the page that you need to get to. Like I said, after this I will edit these out, okay? So we'll wait, and maybe I'll even edit this one out because it seems to be pretty long. Alright, I edited that time loop out, but it was 3 or 4 minutes, so you can expect those kind of waits with this thing. I don't know why, but it just does that. Otherwise, it's a really fast router. Let's hit connectivity here. Actually, hit cancel. You'll see this is the default page you're going to get when you first connect to your router right out of the box. And that's because we reset it, so that's what we wanted. So hopefully you get this. If you don't, reset it again. This is what you should get. Let's go to connectivity. And we will have to reset it every time you change from one wireless mode to the next, or one bridge mode to the next, okay? So here we are in connectivity. Do some housekeeping here. First thing we're going to set here is the Wi-Fi password, because this is impossible to remember. So we're going to call it a Tex-Mex theme taco password there. Here's where you edit the router password to get in. Do that, change it. Don't leave it the same, because admin is easy to hack. Everybody knows it, and you don't want your router hacked, so change it here. I'm not going to, because I'm going to go through this 3 times in this video. So just telling you to do it. Click the edit button and change it. If you're connected to the internet, which we're not, you could go check for updates for your firmware. I would do that prior to doing any of this. Connected to the internet, check and get to see if you got the latest. I do. This is the latest currently as of shooting of this video. I'm going to change the time zone here to central, because that's where I'm at. You set it to where you at, and if you want the activities on and off, do that as well. So we've got that housekeeping down here. We're going to hit apply, and of course we're going to get, this is what you're doing and how you're going to change it. So, and then we're going to get the circles again and applying changes. And if this is long, I'll edit it out again. That wasn't too long. I'll leave it in there. Let's go to internet settings here, which is where we're going to be mostly configuring things. Here we're going to go to edit. So here you choose what mode you're going to be going on. The first one we're going to do is a bridge mode. And what bridge mode means is that you've got an Ethernet cable between your primary and your secondary router connected, and you know, the two talk through that cable, and it's the fastest mode of this of these three. Okay, so I'm going to take my cable and just connect it right now before I do anything else. So cable to the primary, into the internet port on the back of the router. That's the yellow one, or the WAN port. There we go. And the other one goes to the LAN port on the other router, as I showed you in the diagram at the beginning. So here we're going to say bridge mode, obtain IP address automatically, DHCP. That's what you want to use because it's the easiest setting. Now, other than that, you can specify an IPv4 address if you know what you're doing and do that, but we're going for the simple, easy. Let the primary router assign an IP to this and go from there. And I'll show you how to handle all that afterwards. In other words, on how to get to the router if you need to. And here we're going to hit apply, and of course we're going to get the circles again. It's going to tell you using bridge mode will disable most of the apps available on your router and prevent you from accessing the router using Linksys Smart Wi-Fi, which is the phone app, so that's going to be off. And when in bridge mode, you can access your router settings only through its IP address. So again, we're going to know that. This may take a few minutes, so you want to continue? Yes. So I'll edit out this part, and then we'll continue on. Okay, we're back. We've got the sign-in window here. We're going to type in admin because that's the default password for the router after it's been set. All Linksys routers use this, admin. Change that, of course. You should have. I haven't, but because, like I said, I'm doing this 2 more times. So admin, I'm going in. Whatever you change the password to, put that in there. More of this waiting. Now we're in the connectivity home page. As you can see, everything has changed. It's far more basic than it was before. Now, the first thing you need to do here is take this address right here and copy it. Then open up a notepad. See if I have it right here, notepad, and paste it in there, right? And then save it. Save it to your desktop or somewhere easy, because with this address right here, you will always be able to get to the router. It doesn't matter whether it's on what IP address it's on. When you use this address, it finds it and then shows you this page. Very, very handy, especially when you're doing these configurations, because the IP address can change, and it will change when we bridge this, because it will no longer be my primary router, which is going to be, this router is going to be part of, is on a different IP range, which is 192.168.0.1. So the second I connect to that, this router will have a different IP address, and you won't be able to find it at 192.168.1.1 anymore. So remember this very, very key moment. Copy this address and save it in a notepad somewhere as a text file, and always have it handy, because or put it somewhere where you remember where it is, because it always gets you to the router if you don't know where it is. Okay, so and most of the time it will be changing IP addresses. Okay, so we're connected to it now. If you want to see this, let's go to troubleshooting, and in here you'll see under internet connection IPv4, it gives you everything, right? But it shows you that the internet address now is no longer 192.168.1.1. It's 0.99. So how would I have known that? I can't. But with this address, it will always get me there. Okay, so very, very important point. So the fact that we have a different IP address means that it's connected, right? So, well, let's go check that, see if it shows us anything. We'll go to connectivity. Everything's the same here, right? And then we go to internet connection, and this doesn't really show you anything, right? It just says obtain IP address automatically. It's done that, as we saw in the troubleshooting section. So if you want to check and see if you're connected, you can do it that way. Another thing you can do here is, now that we're connected, hardwired to that other router, we can go and check it. So 192.168.0.1 is its IP address, and again, that would be the gateway on this network as well. So enter, and see here it's saying okay, log in. So I'm going to use my credentials and log in, and it's a Netgear R7000, one of my favorite dual band routers. Okay, and here we are. We're going to connect. We're going to go look at attached devices. You can see it's on the internet. It's ready to go, right? So attached devices. And you can see here that the Linksys is connected at 0.99. Now, on all these modes, it doesn't always show up here. It's really weird, but on the hardwired mode, it does show up here, okay? So if you want to see what its IP address, you can go here when you're hardwired and see its IP address. We'll check it later, but again, you can see here that we're connected, and we can surf the internet if we want to. Let's go to Wikipedia. We can. We're connected, and we're connected to this router right now through a wired connection, the Ethernet cable. So I'm going to disconnect that, and then we're going to connect to it through the Wi-Fi password that we used already, that we set in the router. Okay, so we're going to go here to Wi-Fi, turn it on. Well, it's already on, and we're going to go here to Linksys, which is the router. It's Linksys 13187. Click on that, connect. It's going to ask us for a password, and that's the password we put in, which is taco password. There we go. And if you want to check it, just click the I over here, and you can see that I got it right. Next. It'll connect, and we're connected, secured. That usually means we're on the internet, because if it wasn't on the internet, it would say no internet connection. So let's go check something here. Let's go to, I don't know, wiki species, right? And then you can see that we're still surfing the internet, and the cable on the back of that router is disconnected. So now we're Wi-Fi bridged to the primary router. We're using Wi-Fi to connect to the secondary router, and then a LAN cable to connect to the actual primary router. Now, this is the fastest configuration bridge of this when you're using an Ethernet connection between the two routers, because it is full duplex, where Wi-Fi is half duplex. That's technical, but basically an Ethernet cable is capable of sending data back and forth at the same time, where Wi-Fi is either sending data in one direction or receiving data from the other direction, but it can't do both at the same time. It would lock itself out. So it's a little slower. So if you can run an Ethernet cable between the two devices, that is the fastest way to get this connected. Other than that, we're going to do the Wi-Fi connection, the two other Wi-Fi connections next. So what we're going to do is, again, disconnect from Wi-Fi. And actually, we're going to forget this connection, so that the next time we connect to it, we have to put the password in. And we're going to disconnect here on Wi-Fi as well. Now on the back of this router, we're going to hit reset. And in the next video, in the next segment, we're going to configure this as a wireless bridge as opposed to a wired bridge. Okay, so hold down the reset, and I'll get back to you when we're done rebooting and this thing is back to normal. Okay, so yeah, and the other thing we need to do again is hardwire connect again. Disconnect the Ethernet cable from the primary router. We're not going to use that in the next two modes. So all we have is the router with the Ethernet connection to the back of the PC or your laptop. So let's pick it up after it's reset. All right, we're going to be doing this bridge mode next, which is the Wi-Fi bridge mode. It's basically connecting the two routers together using the 5 gigahertz band. You can use the 2.4, but I don't recommend it. It's really slow if you do so. Use the 5 gigahertz band. If you don't have a dual band router as a primary, then upgrade that, because at this point you've got a really fast router connecting to a really slow router, in which case it would be just easier at that point to swap them. Use the fast router as your primary, the slow router as your secondary, and I do have a video on how to do that without doing this up here and making it the access point. Of course, it won't be as fast as this router, because this router is pretty quick. So what we're doing here is we're dedicated a 5 gigahertz connection, Ethernet, not Ethernet, Wi-Fi, between the two of them, and it's mimicking the same thing as that Ethernet cable was doing, but it's not going to be as fast. It's pretty quick either way, right? But if you go to 2.4 gigahertz, it just gets dog slow. So don't do that. Use the 5 gigahertz if possible. If you don't have a dual band primary router, I'll put some in the video description below that will do just fine, including this one. But there's cheaper ones that are just as fast. So I'll put that in there as well in the video description. Those are paid links, like I said before. They help me out. They don't cost you any extra, and you will get decent gear that does what it's supposed to do. You know, so because I use the same stuff. So we're going to connect this together. The router's rebooted. We got the Ethernet cable connected to the router and to the back of the computer. So at this point, we can right-click the new private window here and just go to the browser, go to the router, 192.168.1.1, back to 1.1 because we reset it and it's not connected to anything. So there's the default web page. And then click the I have read the license agreement and go to manual configuration. And again, I'll edit this out if it's a long period. Okay, we're back and you can see the internet connection is down. It took about 2 or 3 minutes, so I edited that out. We're going to continue here, go to login. And the internet connection is down because there's no internet connected to it. So yeah, that would explain that. Yeah, and you get a lot of those waiting circles, so you have to be really patient with those. Just take your time, go for a coffee, whatever. But it will eventually get to the right place. So default password I'm using, you should be using the one you changed or are going to change because you reset it, right? So default password after you reset it, admin, enter. Okay, and you can see that it's the default home page. Here we're going to go to connectivity again. Do the regular housekeeping. So change this to, so we don't have crazy Ethernet connection password. Now, just so you know, this username and password is for the actual Linksys secondary router to log into it through Wi-Fi. And here you change the router password. If you should change the router password. Again, I'm going to be resetting it one more time anyway, and I won't leave those passwords here anyhow. So here we're going to change the time zone. Mine is central. You change it to what yours is. If you want the activity lights on or off, you can click that on here. We don't have internet access right here, so leave it alone. So here we're just going to hit apply, wait for the circles. Usually this doesn't take long. Click yes. All right, that didn't take too long. So we're done with this page. Go to internet settings, and again we're going to edit the type of internet connection. Here we're going to change it to wireless bridge. Now wireless bridge being the alternate to bridge mode. So wireless bridge, again we're connecting at 5 gigahertz. You can choose 2.4, but notice what they say about it, not recommended. I don't recommend it either, it's slow. So here we're going to go to Wi-Fi name. Now what the Wi-Fi name we're putting in is the Wi-Fi SSID for the primary router, which in my case is uppercase letters, and case is important. So if you have a capital letter in your primary router's SSID or Wi-Fi username, definitely change it, right, or match it here. Okay, so this has to look exactly like it looks on Wi-Fi. If you don't know, I mean, you can turn Wi-Fi on and look at your Wi-Fi. Here, let's just do that just quickly, and you can see all the different Wi-Fi accounts around here, and the primary router 5G is where we're connecting to, right? So that's what it looks like, all uppercase letters, right? And the passwords are also case sensitive, so we're going to do that next. Go here to Wi-Fi security mode. You only have WPA2 as a security mode. That's where when you hit that drop down, you get the Wi-Fi password. I put mine in there, and oops, it's not capitals. It is Taco Network. There we go. And at this point, we're going to hit apply. We'll get the waiting circle again. I'll edit that out again, and then we'll see what happens after we're connected. Okay, we're back to the login page. You can see here as we use the same admin. And notice here, the IP, the address has changed to the address that you should save. Again, copy it, highlight it, copy it. Back to Notepad, as I said, and save it somewhere, because that works really well and always works. So admin as a password, whatever you changed it to if you did, and it's no longer at 192.168.1.1, and I can prove that to you by here going to troubleshooting, and you see all the stats, but you see internet address 192.168.0.99. So it changed. It will change. So because my primary router is on 192.168.0.1, and it hands out IP addresses from 99 on. So this machine gets its IP address from it. So this router gets its IP address from the primary router. So, you know, you got to basically understand that it's going to change IP addresses. That's why this address up here is so important. So now we'll go here to connectivity. And like I said, you're going to get used to seeing this waiting thing. I don't know why. But like I said, the router itself is very quick. So here, we're going to change this Wi-Fi address. I mean, that's not going to work for us, not for me anyway. So there we go. And the 5 gigahertz band is locked because we're in wireless bridge mode, and it states it. So that's cool. It shows you that. Hit apply. Okay. Yeah, so as I said, we're dealing with this configuration, a locked 5 gigahertz connection between the two routers and a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi connection to anything that's wireless, but the LAN ports on the back still work like normal LAN ports. Just plug something in there and it'll pretend that it's Ethernet connected to the primary router. It's all on the same network now. So that's the beauty of this system. So let's go back here. We should be connected at this point. Yes, primary router. You see the green bars, that means you're connected. If you see white bars here, you're not connected. There's something wrong. And usually the thing that it will be wrong is either A, you don't have a 5 gigahertz network on the other side. B, you don't have the right primary Wi-Fi name here, that like primary router 5G, or it's not typed out right, case sensitive, or the password is wrong. So there's all those possibilities, but make sure you get this stuff right and you'll connect just like I did here. Okay, so at this point I should be able to surf the internet. So let's go to, I don't know, again, let's go back to Wikipedia. It comes up, obviously it's running, it's working. You know, we go here, right? And you can see that we can go through the pages, no problem, we're connected. And also what we can do here is 192.168.0.1, the primary router. And you see it comes up, so that means we're connected. Log into it. And just to show you, the router only has the Ethernet connection to the LAN ports. There's nothing else connected. So this is happening through Wi-Fi. Beautiful. Let's see if it shows us the attached devices. And it does not show me the router, right? So see again why that is so important to be able to have that address, because without this address up here, you're not going to find the router. It's going to be tough to find, right? Again, on this mode, on the first mode, it was no problem because it was an Ethernet connection, but obviously through Wi-Fi, it's tougher. So again, don't forget to copy this. Again, I'm reiterating that address because it's very important. So copy it, save it somewhere on a notepad. Okay, so that's that bridge mode. The next bridge mode we're going to do is, let's see, the repeater mode. Okay, and that, as far as I'm concerned, is a better mode for me. It seemed to work better, and it also gives me the ability to connect to the secondary router with 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz. Now, a lot of devices like older Ring cameras and things like that, garage door openers and things like that, don't connect at 5 gigahertz. They connect at 2.4. So if you want to extend your network to give those things access, you want to use this mode or the first mode, which was the Ethernet connection to the router, and then closer to those devices at 2.4 gigahertz. Those two modes give you both 5 and 2 gigahertz. The dedicated Wi-Fi bridge does not. So this one does, though. The shared one does. This is beautiful on this. So clients on the secondary Linksys can also connect and use the same chosen frequency. So you can use both, and you still connect to the LAN ports on the back. It works the same exact way, except you get 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. Now, the downside on that is, if you got a lot of 5 gigahertz traffic, that's going to slow down everything going through this router to the primary, right? So because it's using 5 gigahertz and Wi-Fi is not full duplex, it's half duplex. So it can either send or receive at one time, but it can't do both. So it's either sending data or receiving data, and it's doing that either to your clients or to the primary router. But and again, it does that all seamlessly. You don't care about that. You don't see it, but it is a little slower. So, but this mode seemed to work quite well for me. Actually worked better than the dedicated 5 gigahertz connection with Wi-Fi. So, you experiment with the 3 modes and see which one gives you the best result. But in the end, the router at the end will work more or less the same way with a few, differences as far as what you can do with Wi-Fi. So this one's good. We're going to do this next. So first thing we're going to do is reset the router and then come back to it. So that takes about 2 or 3 minutes. So I'll stop the video here, reset the router, we'll reconnect to it, and set that Wi-Fi mode again. Again here, I forgot to show you that it can connect through Wi-Fi as well. So let's turn on the Wi-Fi here. Connect to the Linksys. It should be in here somewhere. I think so, should be, yeah. Basic. Yeah, it should be on. Yeah, this is the dedicated, so it's on. There it is. It's on 2.4 gigahertz. So connect. I know, lots of technical stuff to keep straight, but if you just follow the directions and set it up, and test it, you'll see which one works best for you. Whether you understand it or not doesn't really matter. As long as you configure it correctly, it will work. So we're connected. Let's go to properties here. And you can see here, 2.4 gigahertz, 5254 megabits. Not very fast. And considering the antenna is about 3 feet away from the actual router, you'd think it would be faster, but it's not. I'm going to disconnect the Ethernet cable from the back of the router to show you that it works. And at this point, we should be able to browse the internet. Again, even they don't recommend this, so don't set it up with, the wireless bridge unless there's some real, advantage to it for you. Like I said, experiment, try them all, and see which one works best for you. So here we should still be on this. Yeah, we are, because it's asking me for the password. Let's go to Wikipedia. Still surfing. It seems fast, it seems, awesome actually. So let's see, let's go Mount Everest here. Yeah, it comes up fast, so it's working quite well. So you experiment with which one feels the best for you, and then stay with that. So next, here we're going to reset the router and go to the next mode, which is this one. Set this up and test it out and show you how to do it. And that should be it for this video. All right, the router should have rebooted by now after being reset. Let's go to private network here. So private window. We're going to open it up. And I prefer using private window because it clears everything after you open it and close it, so it doesn't remember anything from the last session. So it keeps everything quite simple. So when you're configuring the router, it always gives you a fresh page. So that's okay. So again, 192.168.1.1 again, because that's the default IP address after it's reset. Oh yeah, and we must plug in the Ethernet cable back into the back of the router to configure it again to be a Wi-Fi access point. So I did that. That should make this better. Over here. Here we are. That should do it. There we go. So, okay, same procedure as always. Click the checkbox for the license agreement, manual configuration. I'll pick this up after this is done doing the circle. All right, we're back in here. Just did refresh the screen a few times and I got back in. It took about 2 minutes, by the way, so be patient with it. Eventually you'll get back at it. Here we're going to click on the login. All right, and here again, default password admin, because we just reset the router. You're going to get the stock front page as always. Connectivity. Okay, the same housekeeping here. I'm going to change the Linksys to my current favorite password. And I made tacos today. So let's go here to Central Time as the time zone. Everything else is okay. Hit the apply. I said usually this is not a long wait, so I'll wait for this one. Yeah, and then here we're going to go to internet settings. And again, we're going to edit here and change the mode to wireless repeater. That's the, you know, this diagram. And as you can see, this is what we're going to do. So Wi-Fi name, what we're looking for here is the SSID of your primary router, whatever that is. And if you don't know, again, it's easy way to check is to turn on the Wi-Fi again, look and find it, and then type it in exactly as you see it. Okay, in my case it's going to be primary router 5G right there. So I'm going to do that. Turn that back off again. And I would suggest that you put the routers fairly close to each other so there's no connectivity issue, because you know there's a steel wall between you and the other router or whatever. Put them both in the same room with a line of sight. Not too close, but close enough. They'll be able to connect to each other as well that way. And once you see they're connected, then you can take them further apart and see if they still connect. If you go too far apart and they don't connect wirelessly, you know what the problem is. You're too far apart. In which case, at that point, I would say go with the alternate Ethernet cable between the two of them if you can. Okay, so here we're going to go to Wi-Fi security mode, WPA2 again, the only option left, and that's so that you have the password that's required to get onto my my primary router. So, and again, case sensitive. Okay, so I got it right there, I believe. Hit apply. And again, I'll pick it up after the circles of the weight. Tells you what it's going to do. You can read this. Again, pretty well what I told you. All right, we're back at the router access page. Sign in. It took a while. And I understand 4 or 5 minutes for that to happen. So I'm editing that out, but be patient, it will get there for you. I'm not sure why it takes so long, but it does. So here we're going to hit admin and enter. And if you change the password, you're going to use whatever you changed it to. Back again. And this time we are wirelessly connected. But if you look at connectivity here, and I would say to Linksys, try to make this a little quicker, you know, like it's seriously slow. So you can see here under Wi-Fi settings, you've got both options, 2.4, all three actually, 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz 1, and 5 gigahertz 2. So this is a tri-band router, but it's usually gigahertz, 5 gigahertz for the second two. So kind of, you know, anyway. You can see here that we're connected. We'll go to internet settings. You can see the primary router 5G. The bars are there, so we're connected at 5G. You have access to both of them. Go back to, let's go back here to, no, we want to go here. So, okay, just hit okay. I guess I can. Yeah, there's so much of this circle when you're doing this configuration, but once it's set up, it works really nice, really sweet. So let's go to troubleshooting. You'll get the all the IP addresses and where this thing's at. Notice again up here that it's got the non-IP address. It's got, you know, this address, which you should have saved by now, and here you can see that it's on 192.168.0.99. You can verify that. So it's changed. It's not 192.168.1.1 anymore. So 0.99. Let's see if we can get to it. And it does not look like we can. Yeah, 0.99. That is the right number. So, you know, again, another reason to have. Yeah, I got that right. Oh, there we go. Took a bit. There. So it is at the IP address, but this is much handier using this. Okay, so we'll stay with that. We're currently connected. I'm sure well, obviously we're going to be connected to the main router. There we go. It's asking for the password, so we are. Here we're going to go to cancel, and we're going to go to Let's go to Twitter. Sorry, not Twitter. Wikipedia again. You can see it's very fast. It's snappy. Like the router itself is very quick. It's just that going through browsing through the pages seems to take forever. Let's go to Wikidata. You see we're browsing no problem. I'm currently connected to the router with just the Ethernet cable to my PC. I'm going to disconnect that, so now it's just Wi-Fi only, and it's connected Wi-Fi to the other router. So here we're going to go and say, we're going to go to Wi-Fi just to connect to it, make sure, Wi-Fi. And Linksys should be in here somewhere. There it is. And connect to it. Of course, we're going to use the taco password. Verify it's okay. It is. Next. Connected quickly. Now let's take a look at the properties this time. This time on Wi-Fi we're on 5 gigahertz, the 149 channel, high, that's high, the high channels, and we're at 866 or 650 megabits per second. Much better than the other mode at 2.4. But that's for wireless. On the wired end, it would be quicker because you're wired to the router, and then the router is connected to the actual other router, the primary router, using 5 gigahertz. So I didn't see much of a difference in the LAN speed with the wired connection on this configuration than I did on the other configuration. But you, again, experiment and see what you get. So there we're connected. Everything's good. Wi-Fi is working. This bridge, this repeater mode is working too. So you experiment with the 3 modes, find out which one works best for you, and go with that. Okay, what worked best for me may not work best for you. So I can understand it. Yeah, I know it's a long, convoluted video, but it is a complex subject, and there's a lot of variables to it. And trust me, I spent about 3 days studying this router and how this all connected, and speed testing everything and seeing how it all worked, just to get this information to you in a I would say condensed manner. What matters and what doesn't matter. But you know, I spent seriously 10 hours a day, 3 days easy, so 30 hours just getting this video ready to start so I could show you how it works and, you know, display it to you. So that's that. So hopefully this helped you out in some way. Okay, that's it for my video. If you like my video and helped you out in some way, do me a huge favor, give me a thumbs up at the bottom corner. That helps my video, my channel a lot, so I really appreciate that. Also, if you want to see more of my content, do me a huge favor and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for notifications. That way, every time I put up a new video, you can watch it at your own leisure. As well, the comment section below this video, make sure you use that for any suggestions for videos or questions, or you know, anything else you want to shoot my way. I do look in the comment section regularly, and I respond regularly as well. Also, the video description. Make sure you use the links in there to help me out. Those are affiliate links, and like I said, it doesn't cost you any more to use them, and you get the stuff that I use in this videos exactly from the sellers that I bought it from, and that guarantees you get the same thing. It works. And again, like I said, it doesn't cost you any extra than just going straight to Amazon to do it. So once again, I really appreciate you watching. I thank you every day for that. Stay healthy, stay happy, and we'll see you on the next video.